Hi everyone. Thank you for joining the session. Today's session we will split into two main sections. Like first, initially for 10 minutes, we will quickly look what is the recent update of the Bitcoin mining world. We will look how hard it is to mine right now, and then what is recently happening. And after that, the main session would be the great hardware wallet debate, which is if you are active on X or Telegram, you might have seen so many posts from every hardware wallet, and there is a online investigator named ZachXBT. So that is a pseudo name. We will see who is this guy, what he is claiming, and what he's saying is actually good enough, or we can argue or debate on it. Okay. So before that, we can just quickly look the recent difficulty, which has just dropped about 5% in a week time. And one more thing, yeah, because as I mentioned, the network difficulty just dropped by about 5% a week ago. It will take some time to load, but once mempool space will load, you can see here the minus 5%. Okay. That means in a lay term that yeah, it is slightly easier to mine Bitcoin than it was a few weeks ago. But the question is why this drop has happened, this previous 5% drop, which you are seeing it right now. So because in there are so many miners are in Texas, and many mining machines have to be turned off when the heat wave is little high there. Because the first thing is if they are using a basic fan cooling mechanism, those will not work. They have to turn it off. First thing to save electricity. Second thing, definitely due to overheating, there could be a lot of damage on the miner. So in that scenario, you may see some Bitcoin miners are offline, which is working on places like Texas or some other places. Now, because of this, there is one more okay, event which will start, I think, in few hours in Miami. That is okay. Let me yes. So that is especially focused on the Bitcoin mining expo. Uh, so it is from July 21st to 23rd. I will see what are the latest news and things are coming from this exhibition, and maybe I will try to cover in the next sessions. And as these things are happening, like because heat wave temperature is also going up, then what companies like Antminer, Miner, and others are doing? So what they are doing right now, they are mostly focusing on hydro and immersive cooling, because if the temperature is going up as it is going up every year due to global warming, those devices which has a loud fan may not able to work 24 cross 7, and if you are not able to run it or work it 24 cross 7, maybe you will not be able to generate the profit out of it. So all the latest model, if you will see the Antminer S21, S23 series, they are focusing more on hydro and immersion shift. So that is happening, and even if you, in a few months you will see some miners will be pivoting from the local loud fan system to the hydro and immersion cooling system, because that will give you, because there are three parameters you always look for when you are look for these. So let me just quickly. First is joule per terahash, because how optimized your devices are. you will able to generate more profit because you will contain less, uh, like it will be more efficient, and you don't need to bother much about the chip efficiency and other thing, because if the whole system is fully optimized and you are getting around 15 joule per terahash, then it is good. Same. Second thing is how much high ambient tolerance those devices are. So if that is air cooled setups means the fans, then those will only work maybe around 40 to 50 degrees centigrade. If the temperature is above that, maybe those devices will not work perfectly. Then you have to move for hydro cooling, and if more, immersion cooling. And even we have seen that if you are using hydro and immersion cooling, sometimes the hardware will stay longer because the maintenance would be there and it may sustain for longer purpose. Okay. So these things we have covered, we have seen why it is dropped. Now the main thing is, who is Jack XBT and what was he was saying? So you might have seen so many posts. I have just opened one of the posts. So at least you will get the context, what has happened in the last week. And so this guy, which has the pseudo name ZachXBT, it is, or this is a very influential blockchain investigator. So you might have seen some people wallet got hacked, some people share the seed phrase online, and the because of that the whole wallet or any phishing link someone has clicked on it, right? So he traced down all the stolen money either from a crypto exchange or from an individual person, and he tries to follow all along everything and will check, because see, everything is in the ledger. So if you have a great tool and if you are good at researching, you will able to map things well, and he's a very good in that. Like if you want to be keep updated about uh, what are the recent hack happens, he has his Telegram channel. Even I am a member of that Telegram channel. I keep getting latest information from his channel. So he is very famous there, and even he has tracked a lot of individual and crypto hacks. Now, what he has mentioned here. So this was his message on Telegram group. That was like, all hardware wallets are completely garbage, and I do not advise using them for important tasks like signing transaction or storing fund. He is suggesting that much better ways to have a separate iPhone with its only purpose being used as your hardware wallet. So if you remember last week session, I have discussed something similar. I have told you like one of my colleague who is working on cybersecurity, he was doing research on one of the wallet, and you will be shocked how much information that hardware wallet app was collecting it from mobile phone. Like even if you are not doing KYC, if you have joined it, you might be aware of, like if you haven't joined the last week session, you can also see the recording. In that, like even if you are not doing KYC, with just using that app, they have lots of information about you, like which IP address you are using, what are the public address, what are the apps you are using, how frequently you are using this, which mobile phone you are using, which Android version you are using, which kernel version you are using, every information. I'm not talking about all the wallet does that, but many wallets does the same, including like including hot wallet as well. So they also do that. So even if they are not doing KYC, they still have all the traces. Like if you are doing transaction from India and if there is a sanction, maybe they will block things. Even they have all those data, your IP address, mobile phone information, a MAC address of your phone. If even they have a MAC address and all those information, maybe it would be easier to find you as well without KYC, right? So let's move back. And he has explicitly mentioned that Ledger is the worst and Ledger Live has a regular update for UI and X. No good reason to break simple things. Now, the thing is that, okay, we have seen who is this guy. So in the layman term, he is a digital detective who tracks all those transactions. So all those public ledger hack or individual ledger hacks, he helped people to trace where the stolen funds are, in which wallets, and even sometimes he does that for more than a year. Like sometimes it happened like crypto wallet or exchange got hacked. People put those money in some wallet and go offline. No transaction, nothing. But let us suppose after 1 year something is happening, then he will keep tracking and all those things. So he's very good at it on that. Now, on his debate, all hardware wallets are safe or garbage. Or can we use our secondary mobile phone and use it as our hardware wallet? For understanding this, first we have to understand if mobile phone is easy to hack or hard to hack, but he has itself mentioned like only purpose should be using as a hardware wallet. So no SIM, nothing. But we will see it in detail. So let's move further. This we have already discussed. ASIC efficiency, I have mentioned like people are pivoting towards immersion cooling and hydro cooling because of this thermal stability features. Mining disrupt 2026 is going to happen today in Miami. Whatever information I will get, we will share it in the next upcoming session. Now, the main topic which we are discussing right now are hardware wallets or garbage. Now, let's see what are the things needed to make a hardware wallet. That is the first thing. Or, okay, before going thing, why he's saying the ledger live and all those things, can we see that what are the things they might be uh, having your information? Let us suppose you are using ledger live. I'm not talking specifically for ledger live. Any wallet app like Trezor has a Trezor Shoot, Ledger has Ledger Live, Tangem has Tangem app. All those hardware wallets has some kind of app. Even if you are using some third-party app like Cake Wallet or any other, that can also you can integrate with your hardware wallet. You can use that, right? Some of them may not be collecting data from the applications, but many are doing that. So what are the things they are doing that? IP address information. They keep having information about where you frequently visit, where you are, what is your IP address. It is easily able to route the network and able to find it out where you will be living. Whether you are from India, Bangalore, or maybe in a specific section in Bangalore, it is easy for anyone to detect if someone has this information. Then they always ask for analytics data. They say that, okay, we are using this data only to improve our application, but you will never know what are the analytics data they are capturing it. Maybe how many times your app got crashed in your mobile phone. If it is happening, they might have your Android version, they might have your kernel version, they also might have your mobile model number and all those details as well. That is the very basic thing. Then they also collect the metadata, means which swap you are doing, what bridge you are using, even if you are using decentralized exchanges, like maybe if you are not doing swap on the same application, you are using any decentralized exchange and uh, just swapping or bridge anything, they will be having all your previous data, even some of the application, because uh, most of the application either you are downloading from Google Play Store or Apple Store, right? That also has Google Analytics and uh, Apple internal analytics, Firebase analytics, all those framework analytics to frequently capture all those things which you are doing inside CryptoS. So those data may be raw, but if people have all those information, that is also very, very sensitive information. Okay. Now, let us suppose he is also talking about even if you don't need hardware wallet, we will see that. But now you may say how I will get to know like which app is doing what. So actually there is no universal way you can check that. Let us suppose if you are using Laser Live on your laptop, because there is a desktop application as well. What you can use, if you remember, previously we have used Wireshark and we have captured the packets, right? So you may use Wireshark. There are some other security monitor application like Glasswire, means if you're not aware of it, you can read it, because see Wireshark may not work on mobile phone. Maybe you can download Glasswire, which is available for Windows and even for Android, and you can see, but you should have some information how things are happening. Even there are some web extensions as well, uh, like if you're using extension wallet, right? So there are some extension comes. For that also there are some open source tools available. Like one I'm aware of, that is WebXray. Uh, that will show you all the third party tracking on web pages and all the web application. So these things you will definitely able to find it out. Let us suppose I open any website, like maybe, okay, let us open two websites so people will not say I'm opening that one only. Okay. So even if you will see, uh, you will able to see the four tracker ads. This is only on the website, right? And Tangium has seven trackers, right? This is just basic information for the website, but apps will be having more, and even you will not get these type of information directly. You can only able to fetch it using some third party open source tools, that you can do that. Okay. Now let's move back and let us suppose I don't want to use hardware wallet. Can I use the Vibe iPhone? Is it a good choice or not? So what he was suggesting, can we factory reset offline iOS device? Will not put a SIM card, will not connect to the Wi-Fi, because maybe I just want to use it as a air gap, right? That is also a good choice. And there are so many hardware wallets comes as a air gapped, right? Uh, Cold card comes, Era wallet is also coming as a air gapped, right? So let's see that. For that, maybe we have to understand little bit about the architecture. Okay. So I hope my screen is visible. I just increased or zoom in. So let's take up about any iPhone, right? Uh, so iPhone 15, let us suppose you have iPhone 15. Okay. That has, okay, just give me a second. Yes. So that has so many boards. Means one is processor board that contains that Apple silicon chip along with so many other vendors chip, right? You might see Samsung, you might see NXP, you might see STM Electronics, you might be aware of Bosch analog devices, right? This you are seeing from Apple. Okay. So the thing which I want to convey is before that I just want to cover one more thing. I think most of you people are using Android phone, right? Can anybody tell that which Android version you are using currently if you want to share? Or I will take it as example. Maybe because Android 16 is currently most late, I mean 70 is latest, but maybe not all the devices may come up with 17. Uh, People would be in 16 and people would be in 15, right? People feel that, okay, I'm running Android 16. That means I am on latest version and my mobile will never get hacked. Let us suppose you are running on 17, you will feel that I'm running latest version of Android. That means all the patches are there because it is showing July or June patches in my Samsung device or any other device, right? But this is not fully true because I'm pretty sure you might have heard about Pegasus. And if you search more, you will get to know about more that is spyware. And people also say that many zero-day vulnerabilities, they are already aware of it. Okay. So let us suppose you are using Android 17. You might be thinking, yes, your device is uh, fully secure because zero day vulnerability we can leave it because maybe only Pegasus and all those big people would be aware of it. And even I have heard it like many hardware companies share their 0 day vulnerability with them because they get huge money. I'm not 100% sure, but maybe. But the thing which you don't know or which the company will never tell you, like if you're using Xiaomi phones, they will say that, okay, we are giving you Android 16, 17, right? But the thing which you don't know, that is which kernel version you are running, because this is the real architecture of your Android phone. Or if it is iOS, it is somehow similar. Okay. So what happens? Below you will be having Linux kernel. So even if you go to your about phone and will see, you will find it out that maybe you might be running Android 15 or Android 16, but your kernel is 5 years old. Your Linux kernel is 6 year old. Then there would be so many vulnerability on Linux kernel. But as people are not aware of, mobile companies will have to put effort to change the kernel version. They don't do that until unless it is a very flagship phone. And even I think Samsung is doing a little bit on the kernel side, but rest of the companies are giving Android version latest, which you will see in the Android framework. So these things will get updated, but not the below thing. Okay. That is one thing which I want to cover. Now you will get this information even if your mobile phone is running on the latest Android version. That does not mean it is fully secure because you also need to check that all the kernel patches are there or not. And in the most of the mobile phone, it is not true that Linux kernel they might be running old. Okay, that is the one basic thing. Now the second thing is in mobile phone, because okay, let's move back and let's see what are the things we need to make a hardware wallet. So if we want to make a hardware wallet, we might need very basic component like main microcontroller. Let me increase the font. So you need main microcontroller that could be STM32 or microchip. You need one or two secure element chip because what I'm trying to convey here is The more components you are using, the more code base it will increase, the more chances of failure and hack or loopholes it will be there. So if we will see, he might be correct what he's saying, but using, if you will ask me, I will not prefer using iPhone or Android phone or even keypad phone, even if it is not having SIM card and all those things. And I will explain you why I am saying this. Okay. So, um, okay, we were seeing if we want to make a hardware wallet, what are the things we need? Maybe basic main controller, 1 to 2 secure element chip. You might need a display. Just 1 second. Yeah, you might need a display. Okay. You might need micro SD slot because some use it, like cold card and other. You might need power regulation system because maybe you are putting a battery. So roughly, if you will calculate the components, it would come around 10 to 15. It could be less as well because some may have very less, but it would be 10 and 15 components. Okay. Okay. In case of mobile phone, so if it is a smartphone, it will have 1,000 plus components. Okay. So huge difference. 15 components, maybe let us suppose one component is coming from different vendor. Let's take one scenario. So there are 15 companies involved. Here, 1,000 companies are involved. Or okay, let us reduce it. It could be 500 companies are involved. And you will be running general purpose OS. General purpose OS. So there are two types of operate. Everything is two purpose. One is general purpose, one is special purpose, right? So general purpose are smartphones are general purpose. You can use it for multiple different general purpose. You can use it for phone calls. You can use it for browsing internet. You can use it as a hardware wallet. So many other. You can use it as a camera and all those things, right? That is fine. Now even if it is 15 or 1,000, why I'm saying that still mobile phone is little more vulnerable because it has baseband, means 4G, 5G, or even 2G. Okay, it has Wi-Fi. Even if you are not using it, that is a different thing. It has Bluetooth. Even if you are not using it, it has it. Even NFC, if you're not using it, it has it. Okay. The main problem is if you are using Qualcomm modem. So when I'm saying modem, you need to use some kind of modem in RF. RF is for radio frequency, like for 4G, 5G, 2G, and other baseband, right? Those information will always be not shared. So these are all closed based system. Means code base is not open source. Now you will say why they are not making it open source? Because these are their bread and butter. If Qualcomm will share that how better they are implementing the Wi-Fi or the 4G or the 5G modem, maybe other can copy and implement the same thing. So there will not be any moat. So they will not share the source code. They will never publish how they are doing it. They will only give the binaries. So they call it blob. These are the binaries. So if you want to uh, build a operating system for iPhone or operating system for Android phone, what you need to do is you just need Linux kernel. You need all those binaries from all those 500 vendors. Like for Wi-Fi, you need another binary. Maybe for Bluetooth, you need one. For NFC, you need one. And those are black box, means they will only give you binary. Black box is Like if I'm running Discord, I'm just running discord.exe file in Windows. I don't know what are the code is written inside this because I just have a executable. They will only give the executable for Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, NFC, but they call it as a block because you can combine those things and then build your Linux kernel out of it, and then you can use that. So let's think in a different way. Like if Wi-Fi has a bug, if Qualcomm has a bug in the Wi-Fi, in that even if your Wi-Fi is not enabled, it may internally connect with Wi-Fi. So any company can use that vulnerability. If any hacker is aware of this vulnerability, they can use it. And even your device is not connected with Wi-Fi, still maybe they can connect with your phone and they can able to do that. You might have seen so many zero vulnerability in that, like don't click on the link, and your WhatsApp may get hacked, or your mobile phone may get hacked, or your Android phone may get hacked, or your iPhone may get hacked, right? So those kind of vulnerability they can use. So when the more component will come into the picture, these things, so cellular baseband processor, so 4G, 2G. So I'm talking about the keypad phone itself because keypad phone has the cellular baseband processor. You never know how this baseband would work. Even let us suppose Nokia don't know how this baseband processor would work until unless they are using the processor from Nokia itself. They don't do. Like if I come here and if you see, can you see what are the radio frequency band they are using? So they might be using some chips from Texas Instruments, some from an XP Semiconductor, some from Broadcom, some from Qualcomm, and some from analog devices, right? So these things even Apple is not aware of because for some they might be sharing, but for baseband band or for radio frequency board, they will never share the source code with Apple. If even Apple cannot see the source code, they will never know the vulnerability that those radio frequency board has. So those could be critical thing for you. And if, as in your secondary mobile phone, you have just turned off those things. You have not removed those board, then it is always vulnerable. You will be having GPS module, you will be having SIM, you will be having Wi-Fi module, you will be having RF part. So the more component you have, the more lines of code you have. But even that is not an issue. But in mobile or these things, which is pretty complex, in that even everything is not open source. Even if you're using, like, I can give you an example. Like, if you guys might be uh, using, some people might be using Lineage OS, or some might be aware of, some people use Graphene OS, right? And they say everything is open source. No one can hack if I'm running Graphene OS. No one can hack if I'm using Lineage OS because I'm not using any OS from Samsung like One UI or Xiaomi. That is wrong because Lineage OS and Graphene OS are open source, but those are not fully open source. Like Graphene OS is open source, but uh, whether the low level drivers are open source? No, they are supporting the devices. So let us suppose, let me click on what are the devices they support. So, okay, I will click on Lineage, and can we click on, okay, okay, yeah, find your device. So Lineage is fully open source. If you go to Lineage.org or even go to GitHub, similar like Graphene OS. Okay, so if you search Lineage, Lineage OS, GitHub, you will find this GitHub link, and people will feel okay, Lineage OS is fully open source. So that means everything would happen. Yes. but they need all those components blob. All those components means pixel also will be having the same thing. Not same is similar, like they will be having radio frequency board, they will be having memory board, right? If there is an issue in the memory, like you can connect memory indirectly and fetch all those information decrypted, because you know, like all those memories are either coming from Samsung, SanDisk, or SK Hynix, right? And they cannot open source everything, because if they will open source how they have designed the system, maybe all the companies can make their own storage devices as well, right? So these things in hardware, it is very hard. You will find an open source implementation. So no one can say in the whole weird world that I have a device which is fully open source. Like I can show you some of the devices. Like okay, Vola phone. So Vola phone. People may think that okay, this phone is fully open source because uh, okay, 1 second, sorry. Um, Let me just open their open source repository. So Vola is a company from Germany. They make privacy focused phone. Even I'm using one of phone. There are so many others. Like you might have heard about Fairphone. If I Fairphone 5, Fairphone 4. Like there are so many other privacy phones available, but none of them are fully open source. What I'm trying to convey here, because what chip they are using, if you will go, they might be using MediaTek chip, they might be using Qualcomm chip. Those source code will never be available online. You will only get the binary. So whatever bug is there, whether you are Albert Einstein or any other biggest talented guy, you will never able to find it what bug it has until unless you get the opportunity to see the source code. So if you not, yes, they are highly secure, but yes, they depends on those third party components which we use. That's why I feel the less component, then it is less harmful for you as a cold storage. Even if you are not pulling the same, even if you are wiping out your whole phone, deleting every app and just putting a wallet, still you are running Android operating system, still the Wi-Fi driver is there, still the Bluetooth driver is there. Even those are turned off, people may find the loophole, because it may happen that if you are using old phone, it might be running on old Linux kernel, old Android OS, and people may easily see the previous bugs. If you are not aware, like just like uh, Android will release the security update, right? All those companies. Those companies also, let me open, like leave about Qualcomm, even MediaTek. If you go to their website and if you go to blog or even section, you will find all those releases. Like they will also release about security vulnerabilities, what are the things, and they will keep releasing the blob internally. But see, once your mobile is released, it is very hardly company will update the blob. Like if your mobile got released in 2025, the work, the POC, the proof of concept work may have already started in 2024. So if it has been already started in 2024, that means you might be using all those blob version or the kernel version on 2024. If you want to see, just go to your Android phone about phone section, check the Android version and also check the kernel version, and then compare the kernel version. Maybe some of the kernel version you will find it out, like you are running 4, 5 or something, right? And if you will see, the kernel version latest would be 6.7. Okay. and very less phone. I'm saying 1% or maybe less than 1% of the phone would be running on 6.6 or above. Maybe the latest release flagship might be running on 6.6 or 6.7. Even if you don't believe, you can just Google it. Uh, how many Android phones might be running on latest Linux kernel version? Less than 1%, right? See, the latest is 6.6 and 6.7, as I have mentioned. The majority would be in 5. And even if you have a phone 1 year old or 1.5 year old, it would be 4.9 or something. So there is huge update from 4.9 to 6.1 or 6.6, right? You will not able to find it out. You may only able to find it out either in Google Pixel latest series or the Samsung latest series. It may happen. But then they will provide you the update. Sometimes they will give you the kernel update, but all the companies, other companies other than Google, and if everything is open source, it is very easy to patch the things and able to release the things very fast. Like if mobile phone has to update from kernel version 4.9 to 6.6, they have to see so many changes on for each hardware, each component, anything would break. So always the update cycle would be very, very long. That's why you see the normal companies don't even provide you the updates because they cannot provide. They don't have a R&D or budget to test or regress all those things with all those third-party companies they are using. So my opinion is yes, if you have a phone, you want to use it, you can use it. But if you have some enough saving, always use a hardware wallet because the components are less. And make sure don't use they have designed like if you want to go with more security, maybe don't use laser live for laser. Maybe I'm not sure because I'm not using laser. So I think laser might be compatible with other wallets like other open source wallet. So you can do this thing. That is the one thing. And second thing is always use Tor browser and all those things if you want more anonymity. Like even they should not able to trace like how things are happening. But stealing it from hardware wallet is very, very tough if as compared to mobile phone. If your application which you are using is not having any trace using Tor properly and able to do everything. Because why I'm saying this, you might have heard this news recently in India, like someone from Kanpur, uh, like Google was able to track that he was having some sensitive videos on his mobile phone in Google Drive. So you can see how many millions of people are there in the whole world. And if Google can point it out that this person has this, means they have this much resource data. And if someday they want to find it out and trace it, they can easily trace it. So always remember, even if you are using Windows laptop, let us suppose I would say, okay, I'm using an open source wallet and they don't have any other tracing or these mechanism. So their code base is also small. Maybe they are Bitcoin only. The architecture is also small. Scope is also small. But you are using a Windows operating system. That could be the problem because Windows OS has all those information which app you are using, and sometimes it keeps fetching all those metadata and will be putting on Microsoft server. So no one knows what will happen in the near future, but if someone will able to fetch all those information and can able to trace it easily with using AI. So all those hidden attack vectors, which we feel that it may not impact, it may impact because the guy who was living in Kanpur, he might not be aware that if I'm doing something, maybe Google will point him out that he's doing some illegal stuff and they can catch him, right? So these things can happen. Always use special purpose devices and make sure if you are using Bitcoin only, always use Bitcoin only hardware and always go for air gap in which like you don't need to bother about which Wi-Fi Bluetooth chip they are using because Bluetooth is open standard, Wi-Fi is also open standard, but there are some kind of blob they implemented, like how well you are implementing. So more critical thing is if you're using any hardware wallet which supports SIM card. So if you're using that, I would recommend you to avoid that. Don't use anything which has a baseband processor because everyone is aware of Huawei and they got banned from US and all those things. What they were doing, like they also work on baseband. See, they are B2B business just like Cisco, right? But you feel all those your data is going through routers only. Whatever you are doing in mobile phone, in laptop, everything is going through router. And if there has a baseband processor in mobile phone, laptop, or in router, to that they can send one copy to another place. They can decode it and do whatever they want. So always baseband processors are very, very tricky, closed source thing. If some devices has, you should always be strict when you are using those things. Okay. So yeah, I have covered this thing. Hope you learned something new today. So if someone says to me that should I use an old iPhone as a well, I would say you can, but it is still a complex device, which if I have enough money on Bitcoin or Lightning or anywhere, I will not prefer using a second-hand phone, which may have a malware and even leave about 0 day vulnerability. It might be having some other vulnerability as well. And so many components are there, and I'm just telling you frankly, like you may feel that these are very, very big companies, but there might be so many silly bugs would be still there in an XP and people are aware of, and people might be exploiting that. Like there could be multiple issue on the baseband which processor, and people might be exploiting those things. And as mobile phone vendor, because a general purpose people will never affect and they are never bothered about it. The mobile phone companies will never focus on updating the firmware or the Linux kernel or the or the drivers, low-level drivers or the hardware drivers block. Because see, the MediaTek and all those companies, they will be keep releasing it every month or every year. Whenever this critical vulnerability comes, you will see all those things. And because generally, even you will not see the binary, because if you just want to download the binary and all those things, they have a different portal. Like if you are an OEM, you are purchasing the chips from MediaTek, you will get a portal. From there, you can download the binaries. So even binaries are not public. Leave about the source code. So yeah, that's all for today. Hope you learned something new today. And yeah, if anyone has any question, any doubt, feel free to ask. Or even if you have any questions later, feel free to ping me on DM. Whenever I would be available, I will reply you back. So yeah, that's all from my side. Anyone questions? Feel free to ask.